After my violent parents came to my wedding, they sent an email asking my wife for over $200,000. So we gave it to them, but they're still angry. When I was 13 years old, I started selling in school. In just the first week of my candy business, I had almost made $500. I used the money to buy my parents a hotel spa retreat for two. Maybe they'd finally say, "I love you," or "I'm proud of you." Instead, my dad's hand violently met my face and told me to focus on my grades. Meanwhile, my mom just grabbed the gift certificate and looked at me like I was worthless. This is where I started believing that love should be earned, not given. I started placing my worth on the reactions my parents gave to pretty much everything I did, good or bad. So, as you can imagine, I've pretty much lived my entire life truly believing I was nothing, literally a waste of space, until a few months ago. It all started when I was 18, and my parents found me a pretty amazing job. But there was one catch. It was across the country, so I'd have to move out. I told them I'd sleep on it, and they responded with, "This isn't a question, it's a demand. We're not putting up with you anymore." My heart felt so broken it started itching. But in my head, I was so disgusting and annoying that their behavior was my fault, not theirs. I left thinking that one day I would return and make them love me. But the only person I ended up proving wrong was myself, because I'm now 23, and in the last 5 years, I got promoted to a managerial position. But more importantly, I also found the love of my life, Charlotte. And she taught me I was someone who deserved love, deserved kindness, deserved to give myself a pat on the back. Plus, she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, like a Disney princess. So proposing was practically a no-brainer. So fast forward to last October, when we were getting married. I didn't think my parents would want to come, because they hadn't talked to me since I moved out. But turns out, they had one last trick up their sleeve. And that trick was a gift. After hearing my life update from a family member, they called me and said the words I'd been thirsting for my whole life. "We're so proud to call you our son." So when they asked to attend the wedding, I was practically shouting the word, "Yes." I wish I knew that it was just their way of staying in control. Luckily, the wedding was a success. Me and my parents didn't really get to talk, but knowing they got to see me tie the knot made my heart feel full. And the next morning, after I woke up beside Charlotte in our hotel room, I saw an email notification. It was from my mom. I asked Charlotte if she wanted to read it together, thinking it would be an attempt at rebuilding our relationship. But my smile was soon replaced with disappointment, because the email was a 4-page PDF attachment. You see, my mom had somehow gathered enough information to create a spreadsheet mapping out earnings from Charlotte's dad's company. And beneath it all, she left a note, not a congratulations, not a please or thank you, just a sentence expressing how they deserved 15% equity in the company as compensation for raising me. My mouth instantly filled with saliva, and the room started spinning. The usual words started replaying in my head. I'm disgusting. I'm a waste of space. I'm nothing. But for the first time, I stopped them, because as Charlotte filled with anger, so did I. Well, Charlotte's dad, Noah, was a family man, and he would have given them damn near 25% if they asked. So we took a deep breath and agreed to talk about it after eating breakfast, when our minds were clear. That evening, we made a decision. We emailed over a digital contract for them to sign to receive 6% equity. The email was meant to end there, but it didn't. I couldn't help myself. I reminded them how they used to wake me up by yelling at me. So in school, I'd get bullied for having a red and puffy face from crying all the time. How I used to wet the bed every night on purpose because I was too scared to go downstairs and use the bathroom. How I used to pay for my mom's monthly shopping sprees with money I earned from my 12th grade window cleaning business. I finished off the email by letting them know I was taking Charlotte's last name and letting the bloodline die with me. Blocking them on every potential method of communication was probably the most satisfying moment of my life, besides my wedding day. But if I'm being honest, I had a second, perhaps darker, ulterior motive. I wanted them to experience the pain I felt growing up. So when I was met with complete silence, my blood boiled. And just when Charlotte managed to calm me down a few days later, I got a notification that can only be likened to how the ground tremors before an earthquake breaks out. It was my uncle. "This is how you repay your parents after everything." That's all I read before turning my phone off. And a few hours later, when I went back to WhatsApp to reply, I had over 99 missed calls and messages. Based on my reading of the threats and blackmail, it was obvious that none of them knew what really happened. My parents had spun some tale about me extorting them, demanding they sign away their retirement funds to my rich in-laws, or else I'd cut them off. Charlotte read some of the messages over my shoulder and actually laughed. "Are you kidding me? They're the ones who demanded equity." I wasn't laughing. I felt sick. This was their new game, turning my entire extended family against me, making me the villain again. "They need to know the truth," I said. I spent the entire night drafting a mass email. Charlotte helped me stay factual and calm. We attached screenshots of my mom's original email demanding 15% equity. I outlined, in bare-bones terms, my childhood. No dramatic language, just facts. I ended by saying I wished them all well, but would no longer be in contact with anyone who sided with my parents without hearing my side. I hit send at 3 a.m., then turned off my phone again. Charlotte and I fell asleep holding each other. The next morning, my email inbox was flooded. Most of my family members were shocked. A few apologized profusely. My cousin Jessica called Charlotte's phone, since mine was still off, crying, saying she had no idea my childhood was like that. She'd always thought we were the perfect family. But my grandmother and a few others doubled down. My grandmother's email was particularly painful. She wrote that I was tearing the family apart with lies, and that I owed my existence to my parents. So whatever they wanted, I should give them. I was drafting a response when Charlotte suggested we take a step back. "Let's focus on us right now," she said. "We just got married. We're supposed to be planning our honeymoon, not dealing with your toxic family's drama." She was right. We decided to turn off our phones for the weekend and just be newlyweds. We ordered takeout, watched movies, and tried to put the whole mess out of our minds. Monday morning came too quickly. I had to go back to work, and Charlotte had classes. I checked my email before leaving and found a message from Noah, Charlotte's dad, asking if we could meet for lunch. Just him and me. Noah had always been kind to me, but we'd never done a one-on-one lunch before. I was nervous the whole morning. What if my parents had contacted him directly? What if he was angry that I'd sent them what appeared to be a contract for part of his company without consulting him first? I arrived at the restaurant early and ordered a beer to calm my nerves. Noah showed up exactly on time, gave me a quick hug, hug, and sat down. "So," he said after ordering his drink, "Charlotte told me what happened with your parents." I nodded, staring at my beer. "I'm sorry about the contract we sent. It was wrong to do that without talking to you first. It was—" Noah raised his hand to stop me. "You didn't offer them anything. Charlotte told me you sent them a fake contract. Your wife is smarter than both of us put together, son." I blinked. "A fake contract?" Noah laughed. "It was never real. Charlotte made it look official, but it had no legal standing. She had it set up so if they signed it and sent it back demanding more, we'd have documented proof of their intentions. If they contacted me directly trying to bypass you, I'd know exactly what kind of people they are." My mouth fell open. Charlotte had explained this to me, but I hadn't fully understood the strategy until Noah laid it out. "Don't look so shocked," Noah said, taking a sip of his whiskey. "My daughter grew up watching me deal with people trying to get a piece of what I built. She recognized the play your parents were making from a mile away. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Charlotte had protected me, us, in a way I hadn't even realized I needed. Here's what I want to talk to you about," Noah continued. "Your parents called my office this morning." My stomach dropped. "What did they want?" "To set up a meeting. Said they were interested in potential investment opportunities." He shook his head. "Their research on my company was impressive. I'll give them that. They knew our quarterly earnings, our expansion plans, everything." "I'm so sorry," I said, feeling my face burn with shame. "Don't apologize for them," Noah said firmly. "You're not responsible for their actions. Anyway, I agreed to meet them next week." "You did?" I couldn't hide my surprise. Noah nodded, a slight smile playing on his lips. "I'm curious to meet the people who raised someone like you and then treated you like an asset to be leveraged. Besides, I've dealt with my share of sharks in business. This might be entertaining." I wasn't sure this was a good idea, but Noah seemed confident. He asked if I wanted to be there for the meeting. I immediately said no. The thought of seeing my parents made my skin crawl. "That's fair," Noah said, "but think about it. Might be good closure." I promised to consider it, and we finished lunch talking about more pleasant things. My job, Charlotte's classes, the plans for their family cabin that Noah was offering us for our honeymoon. When I got home that night and told Charlotte about the fake contract details Noah had explained, she looked embarrassed. "I was going to tell you the full strategy," she said. "I just didn't want you to worry while we were dealing with all the family messages. The contract had all kinds of language in it that would make it unenforceable. I learned about it in my business law class. It was basically just bait." I wasn't mad. If anything, I fell even more in love with her. She'd been 10 steps ahead of my parents from the start. The next week was tense. I decided not to attend Noah's meeting with my parents, but I was a nervous wreck waiting to hear how it went. Charlotte tried to distract me, but I kept checking my phone every 5 minutes. Finally, around 2 p.m., I got a text from Noah. "Call me when you can." I stepped outside my office and called him immediately. "How did it go?" I asked, not bothering with hello. Noah sounded amused. "Well, they're persistent. I'll give them that. They came prepared with a full presentation about why they should be given equity. Something about family legacy and investing in their son's future." "What did you tell them?" I held my breath. "I let them go through their whole song and dance," Noah said. "Then I asked them one question. Do you love your son?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What did they say?" "Your mother said, 'Of course, that's why we're here.' So I showed them the email they sent you. Asked if that's how people who love their son behave. I could picture my mother's face going cold, my father's turning red with anger. And your father said it was taken out of context. Your mother tried to explain that they just wanted what was best for you, that they'd given up so much to raise you and deserved to share in your success." Noah paused. "Then I asked if they knew anything about you, your favorite color, food, what you studied in college, basic parent stuff. I already knew they wouldn't know any of those things. They'd never cared enough to ask. They couldn't answer," Noah continued. "Not a single question. That's when I told them the meeting was over. I said I don't do business with people who see their children as investments rather than human beings." I felt tears well up in my eyes. No one had ever defended me like that before. "There's more," Noah added, his voice turning serious. "They didn't take it well. Your father made some threats." "Threats? What kind of threats?" I asked, panic rising. "Nothing specific, just that you would regret embarrassing them, and that actions have consequences." Standard tough guy talk. I had security escort them out. I thanked Noah for standing up for me, and hung up. I spent the rest of the workday distracted, jumping at every noise. What did my father mean by consequences? That evening, Charlotte and I were discussing whether we should be concerned about my father's threats when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Is this Tyler?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Kimberly from Western Union Bank. I'm calling about some unusual activity on your accounts. Can you verify the last 4 digits of your social security number?" Something felt off. I asked what kind of unusual activity, and she said several large withdrawals had been attempted. I hung up and immediately called my actual bank. They confirmed what I feared. Someone had been trying to access my accounts using my social security number and other personal information. "We've placed a freeze on everything," the bank representative said. "But you should know they also tried to open new credit cards in your name." My parents. It had to be. They knew all my information. They'd opened my first bank account when I was a kid. Charlotte helped me place fraud alerts on my credit reports. We spent hours on the phone with various financial institutions making sure everything was locked down. I was seething with anger. This wasn't just petty revenge. This was identity theft. A crime. "We need to report this," Charlotte said after we'd secured our finances. I agreed, but the thought of filing a police report against my own parents made me physically ill. The decision was made for us the next day when I arrived at work and discovered I couldn't log into any of my accounts. My password had been changed. I called IT, and they said the request had come from my company email, which I couldn't access. My boss, Marcus, called me into his office an hour later. He looked uncomfortable. "We received some concerning emails from your account last night," he said. "Emails to clients with inappropriate content." My blood ran cold. "I didn't send any emails last night. Someone hacked my account." Marcus showed me printouts. There were emails to our biggest clients with pornographic images attached, emails to coworkers with racist language, an email to Marcus himself saying I was quitting to work for our competitor. "This wasn't me," I said, my voice shaking. "My parents are trying to destroy my life because I wouldn't give them money." I expected skepticism, but Marcus surprised me. "I figured it was something like that. The emails didn't sound like you at all. Plus, our IT team confirmed they originated from an IP address in New Jersey." Relief washed over me. "New Jersey, that's where my parents live." "I thought so," Marcus nodded. "We've already secured your accounts and explained to clients that we had a security breach. But Tyler, you need to handle this. If they're willing to do this, who knows what else they might try." He was right. This had gone beyond family drama. My parents were actively trying to ruin my life. wife. Charlotte and I went to the police station that afternoon and filed reports for both the identity theft and the email hacking. The officer taking our statement seemed sympathetic, but warned us these cases were hard to pursue, especially against family members where access could be argued as previously authorized. Document everything, he advised, and get restraining orders. We followed his advice and filed for temporary restraining orders that same day. The judge granted them immediately based on the escalating pattern of harassment. I thought having legal protection would help me sleep better, but I was wrong. That night, I had a nightmare that my parents showed up at our apartment. I woke up in a cold sweat around 3 a.m. Charlotte was still asleep, so I went to get some water. That's when I noticed my laptop was open on the kitchen counter. I hadn't left it there. I approached it cautiously and saw my email was open, my personal email this time. A draft was saved, addressed to Noah. It contained vile insults about his daughter, my wife, and threats against his business. I slammed the laptop shut and woke Charlotte immediately. Someone had been in our apartment while we were sleeping. We called the police. They arrived within minutes and did a thorough search. No one was there, but our spare key was missing from its hiding place outside. The officers took fingerprints but didn't seem hopeful they'd find anything useful. You can't stay here tonight, one officer said. Is there somewhere you can go? We packed overnight bags and went to a hotel. Neither of us slept. First thing in the morning, we called a locksmith and had all our locks changed. We also ordered a security system with cameras. Charlotte called her dad to warn him that someone might try to impersonate me in emails to him. Noah was concerned but not rattled. He suggested we come stay at his house until things calmed down, but the thought of potentially leading my parents to Charlotte's family made me decline. The last thing I wanted was to put more people at risk. Later that day, I received a text from an unknown number. Ready to reconsider our offer? I showed Charlotte. It's them. What do I do? Don't respond, she said firmly. That's what they want, to open a line of communication. We document it for the restraining order violation and give it to the police. She was right. We forwarded the text to the officer handling our case. He said it wasn't enough to arrest them. They'd just deny sending it, but it strengthened our case. The next day, things escalated further. My boss called to tell me someone had showed up at my workplace claiming to be my father. Security had turned him away because he wasn't on the visitor list, but he'd made a scene, shouting that I was stealing from my family. We've added both your parents to the security blacklist, Marcus assured me, and I've let everyone know not to share any information about you. I thanked him, amazed that my workplace was being so supportive. Marcus had even suggested I work from home until things settled down. Charlotte and I were discussing our next steps when her phone rang. It was her mother, sounding frantic. There's a woman here, she whispered. She says she's Tyler's mother. Noah isn't home and she won't leave. My mother had tracked down Charlotte's parents' address. I felt sick. Call the police, I told Charlotte's mom. She's violating a restraining order. Don't engage with her at all. We jumped in the car and raced to Charlotte's parents' house, calling the police ourselves on the way. By the time we arrived, 2 police cars were already there. My mother was being put in handcuffs while she screamed about ungrateful children and family obligations. When she saw me, she tried to lunge in my direction, but the officers held her back. This is what we get? She shrieked. After everything we did for you? You owe us. I stood frozen, watching the woman who gave birth to me being arrested for harassing my in-laws. I felt nothing but sad emptiness. Charlotte squeezed my hand, grounding me. You don't owe them anything, she whispered. You never did. The officers asked if we wanted to press charges. I looked at Charlotte, then at her mother, who was shaken but unharmed. I nodded. This had to stop. Yes, I said, and I want to make a statement about the other incidents too. My mother was taken away, still yelling about family loyalty. One of the officers stayed behind to take our full statement about everything that had happened since the wedding. This is a clear pattern of harassment, the officer said when we finished. And with the breaking and entering at your apartment, the identity theft attempts, and now this, we have more than enough to make a solid case. I expected to feel vindicated, but mostly, I just felt tired, drained. All I'd ever wanted was for my parents to love me, and instead, I was pressing criminal charges against my mother. Charlotte's mom made us tea while we waited for Noah to come home. She didn't ask questions or offer platitudes. She just sat with us, a quiet, supportive presence, what a mother should be. When Noah arrived, he was furious that my mother had come to his house, but he calmed down when he saw how upset Charlotte's mom was. He thanked me for acting quickly and assured me this wasn't my fault. Family doesn't treat family like this, he said, his hand firm on my shoulder. You're our family now, Tyler. Don't forget that. His words hit me hard. I excused myself to the bathroom and broke down crying. Years of pain and rejection poured out of me. When I finally composed myself and returned, Charlotte took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. We'll get through this, she promised. Together. I needed to believe her, because my parents weren't done yet, not by a long shot. Later that night, as we were leaving Noah's house, Charlotte checked her phone and gasped. She showed me the screen. It was an email from my father, sent to her school email address. It contained personal photos of me from my childhood, with a message claiming I had a history of violence and mental instability that I was hiding from her. He's contacting the school now? I was incredulous. Is there anywhere they won't go? Charlotte was already calling campus security to report the harassment. They took it seriously, especially when she explained her mother-in-law had just been arrested for similar behavior. On our drive home, Charlotte's phone kept buzzing with notifications. My father had somehow gotten hold of her classmates' emails and was sending them messages about me too. By the time we reached our apartment, she had dozens of concerned texts from friends asking what was going on. They're trying to isolate you, I realized. Make your friends and classmates afraid of me so you'll leave. Charlotte set her jaw determinedly. Well, it's not going to work. She spent the next hour calling and texting her closest friends, explaining the situation. Everyone was supportive, offering help, and expressing outrage on our behalf. No one believed my father's lies. As we got ready for bed, exhausted from the day's events, I felt a moment of clarity. My parents had never loved me. Not really. I was just a possession to them, something they thought they owned and could use whenever it benefited them. The realization was painful, but freeing. I think I need to see them, I said suddenly. Face to face. End this once and for all. Charlotte looked concerned. Are you sure? After everything they've done? I nodded. They won't stop until I confront them directly. As long as they can hide behind screens and distance, they'll keep escalating. We discussed it late into the night. Charlotte was worried about my safety, about the emotional toll a confrontation would take. I understood her concerns, but I also felt certain this was the only way forward. I'll go with you, she finally said. We'll face them together. The next morning, we learned my mother had been released on bail. The restraining order was was still in effect, but we knew that wouldn't stop her. We needed to act fast. I called my father. He answered on the first ring, as if he'd been waiting for my call. Ready to apologize? He asked, his voice smug. I want to talk, I said, keeping my voice steady. In person. No more of this online harassment or showing up at people's houses. A real conversation. There was a pause, then, fine, come to the house tomorrow. Not the house, I said immediately. Neutral ground, and I'm bringing Charlotte. He didn't like that, but eventually agreed to meet us at a coffee shop near their hotel. They'd apparently been staying in Seattle since the wedding, planning their revenge tour. That night, Charlotte and I prepared for every scenario we could think of. We wrote down what we wanted to say, practiced responses to their likely tactics, and agreed on boundaries. We even had a code word for if either of us felt unsafe and needed to leave immediately. Remember, Charlotte said as we fell asleep, you're not alone this time. You have me. You have my family. You have friends who care about you. Whatever happens tomorrow, that won't change. I held on to those words as we walked into the coffee shop the next day. My parents were already there, sitting stiffly at a corner table. My mother's face was tight with anger. My father looked coldly smug, like he thought he had the upper hand. I took a deep breath and squeezed Charlotte's hand. It was time to finally stand up to the people who had spent my entire life tearing me down. I approached the table with Charlotte beside me, her hand firmly in mine. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought everyone in the coffee shop could hear it. My parents looked up when they saw us coming. My dad had that same disapproving scowl I'd seen my entire childhood, while my mom's face was a mix of anger and something else, maybe smugness. You're late, my dad said, even though we were exactly on time. I slid into the chair across from them, Charlotte taking the seat next to me. Thanks for meeting us, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My mother scoffed. As if we had a choice after you had me arrested. She glanced at Charlotte with undisguised contempt. I see you brought her. My wife, I corrected. Yes, I did. A barista came over and asked if we wanted anything. The awkward pause while we ordered 4 coffees gave me a moment to gather my thoughts. Once she left, my father leaned forward. Let's cut to the chase, he said. This nonsense has gone on long enough. Drop the charges against your mother, cancel those ridiculous restraining orders, and convince your father-in-law to give us what we're asking for. I almost laughed at how he just jumped right into demands without even a "how are you" or anything. Classic dad. That's not happening, Charlotte said before I could respond. You broke into our apartment. You tried to steal Tyler's identity. You harassed my family and my classmates. These aren't minor inconveniences. They're crimes. My mother's face reddened. We wouldn't have had to do any of that if Tyler had just done what he was supposed to do. She turned to me. After everything we sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us? By taking her side? Her side? I repeated. Charlotte's my wife. There aren't sides in a marriage. My dad snorted. Don't be naive. Everyone has their own interests. What has she done for you that we didn't do? We gave you life. We put a roof over your head. We found you that job in Seattle. You found me that job to get rid of me, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. And yes, you gave me life, but from the moment I was born, you treated me like I was a burden. Our coffees arrived, creating another awkward pause. No one touched their drinks. We're not here to rehash your childhood grievances, my father said dismissively. We're here to resolve the situation like adults. I nodded. That's exactly what I want too. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop harassing us, Charlotte's family, my workplace, and her school. You're going to go back to New Jersey and leave us alone. My mother laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Or what? Or we continue with the criminal charges, Charlotte said. We have evidence of everything you've done. The police are already building a case. This isn't going to end well for you. My father's face darkened. Is that a threat? No, I said. It's reality. Mom's already been arrested once. Do you really want to go to jail too? My mother started crying suddenly. Big theatrical sobs that made people at nearby tables look over. How could you do this to us? After we gave you everything. I'd seen this tactic my whole life. Cry when confronted. Make everyone uncomfortable. Shift the focus. Not this time. What exactly did you give me? I asked quietly. You never told me you loved me. You hit me when I tried to do something nice for you. You woke me up by screaming at me. You made me wet my bed because I was too afraid to use the bathroom at night. My father waved his hand dismissively. Every parent disciplines their child. Stop exaggerating. It wasn't discipline, I said. It was abuse. The word hung in the air between us. Abuse. I'd never called it that before, not even in therapy, but that's what it was. My mother's fake sobs stopped instantly. How dare you? After all we did, what did you do? Charlotte interrupted. Seriously, I'm asking. What exactly did you do that was so wonderful? Because from where I'm sitting, you abandoned your son for 5 years, then showed up at our wedding only to demand money from my family. My father's face was getting redder by the second. We raised him. We clothed him. We fed him. The bare legal minimum, I said. And you made sure I knew what a burden it was every single day. My mother leaned forward, her voice dropping to a hiss. You ungrateful little— I'm not ungrateful, I cut her off. I'm just not willing to be manipulated anymore. I spent my entire childhood trying to earn your love. I started businesses at 13 to try to impress you. I got good grades hoping you'd be proud. Nothing was ever enough. My father scoffed. Oh, poor you. Do you know how pathetic you sound? Complaining that mommy and daddy didn't praise you enough. Charlotte's hand tightened around mine under the table. I could feel her tension, her desire to defend me, but she was letting me handle this. I'm not here for your praise anymore, I said. I'm here to tell you it's over. Whatever power you think you have over me, it's gone. I don't need your approval. I don't want your love. I just want you to leave us alone. My mother's face contorted with rage. You think you can just cut us off? After everything we did for you? We're your parents. Parents love their children, I replied. They don't try to extort money from their child's in-laws. They don't break into their child's apartment. They don't try to destroy their child's career and marriage. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. I've been recording this entire conversation. If you contact me, Charlotte, her family, my workplace, or anyone connected to us again, this recording goes to the police, along with everything else we've documented. My father's face went from red to purple. You can't record us without permission. That's illegal. Charlotte smiled slightly. Actually, Washington is a one-party consent state. As long long as one person in the conversation consents to the recording, it's completely legal. I stood up, Charlotte rising beside me. This is your one and only warning. Leave us alone or face the consequences. My mother grabbed my wrist as I turned to go. Her nails dug into my skin. You think you're so smart now with your fancy job and your rich wife. But remember who you are, Tyler. You're nothing without us. Nothing. I gently removed her hand from my wrist. That's where you're wrong. I'm everything without you. I always was. I just didn't know it. We walked out of the coffee shop, neither of us looking back. The next day, we got a call from the detective handling our case. My parents had checked out of their hotel and apparently bought plane tickets back to New Jersey. The immediate threat seemed to be over, but we weren't taking any chances. We kept the security system at our apartment and made sure everyone, from building management to work security to Charlotte's school, knew not to give out any information about us. 2 weeks later, we got a letter from a lawyer in New Jersey. My heart sank when I saw the envelope, assuming my parents were now trying to sue us for something. But when we opened it, we found something unexpected. They want to settle, Charlotte said, scanning the document. They'll agree not to contact us again if we drop all charges. I read over her shoulder, hardly believing what I was seeing. They're actually backing down? Charlotte nudged me and pointed to a paragraph near the bottom. Look at this. The lawyer mentions your father's job as a reason they want this resolved quietly. I'd almost forgotten my dad worked for a bank in a position that required a clean record. A criminal conviction would end his career. So it's not about doing the right thing, I said. It's about saving his job. Charlotte shrugged. Does it matter why they're backing off, as long as they leave us alone? We discussed it with Noah over dinner that night. He'd brought his own lawyer, who reviewed the settlement offer. It's fairly standard, Noah's lawyer said. They don't admit any wrongdoing, but they agree to cease all contact and stay at least 1,000 feet away from all of you. In exchange, you drop the current charges. Can we trust them to keep their word? I asked. The lawyer smiled. That's the beauty of a legal settlement. If they violate it, you can take them back to court for breach of contract, plus reinstate the original charges. It actually gives you more leverage than just the restraining order alone. Noah leaned back in his chair, swirling his whiskey. What do you want to do, Tyler? This is your call. I thought about it. Part of me wanted my parents to face consequences for everything they'd done, but another part just wanted this nightmare to be over, so Charlotte and I could move on with our lives. If we accept, I said slowly, can we add a clause that they can't contact any of our family members or colleagues either? Not just us? Absolutely, the lawyer nodded. We can make the terms as comprehensive as you'd like. I looked at Charlotte, who squeezed my hand supportively. Let's do it, I decided. Let's end this. The settlement was finalized a week later. My parents signed it without further negotiation, which told me how desperate they were to avoid prosecution. Just like that, the nightmare was over, at least legally. Emotionally, I still had work to do. I started seeing my therapist twice a week, working through the layers of trauma my parents had inflicted. Charlotte came with me to some sessions, learning how to support me through triggers and bad days. We finally took our honeymoon, 3 weeks at Noah's cabin in the mountains. No phones, no internet, just us and nature. Those quiet weeks healed something in me that I hadn't even realized was broken. When we returned, Charlotte dove back into her MBA studies, and I threw myself into work. Marcus had been incredibly understanding throughout the ordeal, and he rewarded my dedication with a promotion 6 months later. Life settled into a new normal. My parents kept their end of the settlement. We didn't hear a word from them. Over time, the hypervigilance faded. I stopped checking over my shoulder everywhere I went. I stopped flinching when the phone rang with an unknown number. About a year after our coffee shop confrontation, Charlotte and I were having dinner with her parents when Noah raised his glass for a toast. To family, he said. The kind you choose, not just the kind you're born with. I felt tears prick my eyes as I raised my glass. To family, I echoed. Later that night, lying in bed with Charlotte curled against me, I realized something profound. My parents had been wrong about everything, but especially about one thing. I wasn't nothing without them. I was everything I'd always been. Strong, capable, worthy of love. I just couldn't see it through the fog of their abuse. What are you thinking about? Charlotte murmured sleepily. I kissed the top of her head. Just that I'm lucky. Because you have me? She teased. Because I finally know what real family feels like, I said honestly. Charlotte propped herself up on one elbow. Speaking of family, how would you feel about starting one of our own? My heart skipped a beat. Are you saying what I think you're saying? She nodded, a smile spreading across her face. I took a test this morning. We're going to have a baby. I pulled her into my arms, overwhelmed with joy and a little bit of fear. I don't know how to be a good parent, I admitted. I never had examples. Charlotte laid her hand on my cheek. You know exactly what not to do, and you have more love in you than anyone I've ever met. You're going to be amazing. 8 months later, when I held our daughter for the first time, I made her a promise. You will never doubt that you're loved, I whispered. Not for a single day of your life. And as I looked at Charlotte smiling tiredly from the hospital bed, at Noah and his wife cooing over their first grandchild in the corner, I knew I was part of a real family now. One built on love and support, not obligation and control. My parents had taught me what family shouldn't be. Charlotte and her parents had shown me what it could be. And now, with my daughter in my arms, I was getting the chance to create what it should be. Sometimes I still get emails from extended family members asking me to reconcile with my parents. I don't bother responding anymore. The people who matter know the truth, and the people who don't matter can think whatever they want. I don't hate my parents anymore. I don't really feel anything for them. They're just people who were in my life once, a long time ago. The family I have now, the one I've chosen and the one I'm building, is all that matters.